This is a direct quote or statement from the Senior Design VP of BMW, Adrian van Hooijdonk, and I want you to look at the face of the iX as I'm reading this to see if it makes sense for you. The BMW iX shows how we can give new technologies a very modern and emotional design. The car is technologically complex, but it feels very clear and uncomplicated. To me, the iX is the most complicated and unemotional sterile design of BMW I've ever seen, and in this video I'm gonna try and change that. I've made a video on my second channel talking about the big design problems the BMW has right now, and when I'm talking about problems, I'm talking about a total lack of identity, because today we can have a BMW. If you look at across the board, you have 5, 6, 7 totally different faces for the brand BMW across the lineup, and that doesn't build a strong brand identity, and it's the first time ever in history I've seen this from BMW. So this is the BMW iX, and to me it's, as I said, a very complicated design, and the reason for it is, if we look at it, the graphic features of each part, specifically in the front end, they just don't work well together. This in combination with, for example, the fenders here that are kind of squarish, but not square enough to call them squares. They kind of rounded at the same time. You lack a complete shoulder line right here. You have this black graphic stretching all the way 1/3 up of the side of the car, which I don't think looks good at all. I would rather have it be body colored, and that's one thing I'm going to change here. And I'm also going to try to make the front end look more in line with current BMW lineups. I'm narrow the 5 to 6 to 7 different kind of fascias that BMW are working with right now, and narrow that down to make it look like it has the same kind of DNA across the lineup, that all the current BMWs actually belong to the same family. The reason I called it complicated is because we have so many different graphics right here, and curvatures and sharp angles, a triangle right here for whatever reason. We have some pattern in here, some texture right here. You can see these lines in this. Then we have a completely different pattern right here with a completely different design language and graphic shapes on the outside. Yes, all the sensors and everything is incorporated behind these two kidneys now, which don't, of course, they don't act as grills anymore, but they act as housing for all the sensors that is integrated in this BMW iX. Technology-wise, it's a fantastic piece of engineering. Design-wise, it's a complete disaster. So that's what I want to change here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take the BMW i4. I kind of like the face of the i4. It looks like it's a proper BMW. It's a little bit too soft for me. I would like to sharpen things up in the design there. I've made a video on that as well here on the channel, redesigning the i4, but I'm not gonna worry about that right now. What I'm gonna do, take the i4 face, apply it to the front end of the BMW iX, and that simple change, that's changed by itself, is going to make a big difference to the design of this. It's going to make it more of an emotional design, because we actually have some emotional lines in the headlights design, the shape of the headlight. The grille, not so much, because we still have the weird grille that we have across pretty much the all new BMWs, but not the 2 Series, where they decided to go with another type of grille, which is different from the current 5 Series, which is different from the current X Series. So we have 5 or 6 different grille designs currently at BMW. They don't know what they're gonna go with. It looks like they're probably leaning towards this, but they're getting so much criticism for these big grilles here. I'm not sure if that's gonna last. If the next generation of these cars that we see today, the next generation M3 and M4, I'm really looking forward to see how those are going to look like based on the feedback that they've gotten received for these new kidney designs in the front. And the black part that we have on the side of the car, I kind of understand that it's supposed to make the car look shorter and not so tall, but it doesn't work here because we don't have anything else that adds to that feeling in the side of the car. We don't have a strong shoulder line. The shoulder is completely smooth, and it looks kind of fat with these fenders that kind of have a little structure to them around them, with these square-ish fender flares that don't really, you don't see a connection with that design or those curvatures anywhere else in the car. In the front, everything gets super sharp. In the side, it gets soft and with 2 sharp lines, which are the fender flares, and in the rear looks pretty decent. The rear looks okay, but there are still some problems with the rear end and the proportions there. I'm not going to touch that today. I'm not sure if I made that in the redesign of the iX I made a while while back. This design though, I just want to have it be more familiar with what a BMW is supposed to be, and I think it's just some small changes that I think BMW could actually have implemented on the iX and not make it look like it's been punched in the face because of the flat nose that we have if you look at it from a side view. To me, they say it's one of the most emotional designs they've ever made. I don't understand how they can say that when it lacks any sort of emotion, any space of this design. You don't have the front looks totally disconnected from the side, which looks totally disconnected from the rear end. It's such a chaotic design and sterile and unemotional. As I've said before, this would probably work fantastic if they just marketed this not as an automotive design. Automotive design has to be very emotional and it needs to have a human touch to it. I talk about this more in my video that is called The Big Problem with BMW Today. On my second channel, I would suggest you go and check that out because I go into more detail. I show you the generations leading up to today and how everything just went wrong with today's generation looking back throughout the decades. Very, in my opinion, interesting video if you're interested in BMW and car design in general. But at the same time, I get it. BMW, they want to do something new. They want to try different things, and I'm totally for that. At the same time, you can't just make at the same decade, in the same lineup, you can't have 7 distinctly different front fascias of the same brand. That is never good. It's going to dilute the brand identity, and it's going to take a long time to bring that back to the overall brand design and the brand recognition. When you see a BMW, you want to instantly know that this is a BMW, something that they had up until I would say 4 or 5 years ago when they started to implementing a bunch of different front fascias on a bunch of different products. But I still have hope. I think they're just throwing stuff on the wall to see what sticks, and hopefully they realize that they're starting to do more product design and that they lost the automotive sensual design that we need in all BMWs and go back to that sort of design language.